Hi, welcome to IIBS IAS Academy. I am Ashok, Assistant Professor at IIBS IAS Academy. I am a Master's graduate from IIT Kharagpur and I have been training UPSC aspirants since the past 4 years. In this YouTube channel, we shall be discussing the concepts related to UPSC Civil Services Examination as well as the State Services Examination. Please do like, share and subscribe, and please do comment whatever the queries you have below. Welcome to IIBS. Today we are going to discuss the newspaper, and the very first news we are going to discuss today is RBI forecasts end of contraction by quarter 4. Because of the COVID-19, we have seen the economy being contracted. So the RBI has taken the accommodative policy. So what do you mean by accommodative policy? The accommodative monetary policy is when the central banks expand the money supply to boost the economy. When there is no money in the market, so the economy crumbles, the economy becomes stagnated. So during the time, to stimulate the economy, what RBI does is it infuses the money into the market to stimulate the economy. And it has gone for the accommodative policy without changing the repo rate. So repo rate is very important. So what is repo rate? Repo rate is a rate at which the central bank of the country lends money to the commercial banks. So if at all the commercial banks lack money to give it to the people, so it can lend short-term money from the central bank. So we call it repo rate. So it has put the repo rate unchanged as 4% and it has extended the accommodative policy till 2021 and 22. Okay? And the next important thing is Bhima Koregaon. So here we have to understand what the Battle of Bhima Koregaon is and why it is important for the historical perspective and as well as the cultural perspective. In 1818, the Battle of Koregaon is of importance for the Dalits. Since 1818, it is very important. Why? In 1818, 800 troops of British Army with large number of Mahars, which are leather workers, predominant among them, have defeated the numerically superior Marathan Empire. Right? Marathan Empire was a huge empire. It was a confederacy. So just 800 people defeated everyone, and the people were actually seen, the Marathas, as suppressive. They have the suppressive behavior. So they started celebrating the victory since then. And the victory pillar was erected in Koregaon by the British, commemorating the dead soldiers. In 1928, the Dalit leader, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, who drafted our constitution, Dr. Ambedkar led the first commemoration ceremony there. And since then, all the Dalits gather at Bhima Koregaon to celebrate the victory against the upper caste Peshwas. Right? So because of which this is important, and in 2018 there was a conflict which has happened when the people gathered to commemorate the second centenary which has happened there, and the case is still going on. So for UPSC perspective, you have to understand what is Bhima Koregaon and what is its importance since 1818. Yeah, this one. This comes into the governance. NRI quota in professional and technical courses is not sacrosanct. So we have this NRI quota. So the court has actually said the candidates cannot ascertain their right to admission. So if the college chooses not to opt for NRI students, they have the right to do so. Right? So it is not sacrosanct in nature. Sacrosanct in the sense it is not ascertained. It is not mandatory to follow that 15% NRIs has to be in the class. Right? Because in the COVID situation, they cannot maintain that benchmark. The 15% benchmark cannot be maintained. So they have approached the court what they should do. The court has given the verdict saying that it is not sacrosanct in nature. Whether you want to follow this 15% or not, it is up to the choice of the institution. We have seen about the organ transplantation. Now we are going to see about the tree transplantation. So what is this tree transplantation? Due to the construction and due to the increase in the population, because new area is being converted into the real estate land and new construction is being performed, we are losing lot of greenery. So instead of losing greenery, so what we can do is we can take the plant, we can uproot the plant from this area and you can place it in another area. So far we are following the reforestation policy or the reforestation and afforestation policies. Instead of reforestation and afforestation, we are going for transplantation policy now, right, which is very important. So that, and you may have a doubt whether the trees will survive after the transplantation or not. It has about 80% of the success rate, and the trees can be successfully transplanted, which is actually being followed in many other countries as well. Right? This is about the tree transplantation policy, which is a part of environment and ecology. Previously, when the COVID has actually started, we started using RT-PCR, real-time PCR. Using RT-PCR is very effective, but it is a time-taking process. But with the use of rapid antigen test, we can estimate whether the person is infected with the antigen. What is the antigen? SARS-CoV-2, right, within just 30 minutes. So which is very important. Now we are using rapid antigen test all over India, where you can predict very easily whether the patient was infected with the COVID or not. Right, for the farmers, the government is giving minimum support price before farming, before the farming season. The minimum support price is nothing but the amount of money, 1 quintal or 1 case of rice, whichever the quantity that farmer may produce, how much price, the minimum price that is fixed for the farmer, so that he will not be bearing the losses, right, because the market is fluctuating. So because the farmer should not feel the disadvantage of the fluctuating market, so the minimum amount of price will be fixed by the government on beforehand, so that the farmer will also know, if at all I sow this particular plant variety, so he can get a minimum threshold profit, right, that is MSP, right. So you have to know about the MSP. Next one, the farmer protests. So the farmer protests are happening since many days. So why the farmers are protesting? Why the farm legislators or the 3 farm bills, why they are contradictory or controversial? So what is actually happening over here? So here, because the agriculture is in the state list, constitutionally agriculture in the state list, the rule, whatever the policies that can be drafted on that particular state bills lies within the state. But now the central government has made a bill on the agriculture. So what it has said, it said the farmers can be able to export not just in the state to any other state wherever they get the profit. So if they are thinking they are getting the profit in some other state, they can export the plant variety, they can export the products. But it has also some other provision saying that the farmers can also make the deals with the corporate sector of India. This is where the contradictory has actually started, or the controversy has actually started, because there is no redressal mechanism. And the farmers do not have that awareness how the contracts ought to be made. They may be exploited. So because of that, the farm bills are being protested across the nation, right? So this is one area where we have neglected for a very long amount of time, because the entire Indian Ocean was named after India. Even though it is named after India, so we haven't exploited the resources within the deep seas or the shores of Indian Ocean. So when it comes to the deep sea explorations, the China is trying to make its mark in the Indian Ocean region by investing so much of amount of money in the neighboring nations, and as well as for the exploitation of the resources in the Indian Ocean. So after 3 decades, so Oil India Limited has actually resumed the offshore production, right, offshore operations for the oils. Fundamental rights polity, the right balance, right. Recently Shaheen Bagh, the Supreme Court has actually said that it has ascertained the freedom of protest is a fundamental right, and there is no way, no one can reject the freedom of protest. But what it said, you cannot continuously protest for a long amount of time, obstructing the social progress or obstructing the social movement, right. So what it said, the Supreme Court has ventured to hold that any such indefinite blockade, right, of the public pathway is unacceptable, right. The protest is acceptable. The protest is acceptable because it lies under the fundamental rights. But what is unacceptable is indefinite blockade. So indefinitely you cannot just occupy a particular territory, public territory, and you can block the passes of public. So it is a public inconvenience. So that cannot be accepted. So it has ascertained the balance between the 2 things. The first one is the right to protest, and the next one is the right to free movement. The both are fundamental rights. So one thing should not restrict the other, right. So the right balance has to be maintained. This is very important for prelims perspective and as well as the mains perspective. They can just simply ask a question like, the court's assertion was even made while appreciating the existence of right to peaceful protest against the legislation, and there are 2 contradicting rights, right to protest and the right to free movement. Critical comment, they can just ask like that. They can give a statement right away, and they can ask you to comment on it, or they discuss on it, or what your opinion, right. So this is important for prelims and as well as the mains. And the US elections, so we'll discuss this after the election results are done, because it is talking about the uncertainty. And even in 2014, when the US elections are actually happening, we have witnessed that the polling was different and the actual verdict was different. So there will always be uncertainty when it comes to the elections. Next one, saving lives under the long shadow of the pandemic. This is very important. This comes under the social issue, right? So during the time of the pandemic, we have the social, economic, political, right, and ecological impacts, right? Due to the COVID, the social impacts are really high. So one of the social impact is mental trauma or mental disorders. The more people during the time of crisis are more prone to commit suicide. So that has to be restricted. The COVID-19 pandemic has impacted populations around the world in multiple ways. The fear of being infected and anxiety about uncertainty and the future have impacted the mental health severely. So this has to be addressed. And there is also evidence that deaths by suicide increased in the United States during the pandemic. Which pandemic? 1918 and 1919, right? So we call it Spanish flu. About 50 million people died in the world. About 50 million people have died in the world. So which is very important. So during the time of pandemics, because of the uncertainty, because there is no economic progress, because they won't be getting any money, they cannot even go out. So it creates immense pressure to the individual and they commit suicide, right? So the same thing was also observed during the 2003 SARS, right? In 2003 as well, that was also a pandemic. So that needs to be addressed immediately, right? The mental health disorders are one of the disorders of most concern which have been swept under the carpet of stigma, because nobody cares about the mental disorders. Most of the people do not even address the mental health as a proper one, right? So because of which it is of the main importance, right? In this, the point which we have to focus is 242nd Law Commission report. 242nd Law Commission report. This is very important for the examination. So, the 242nd Law Commission report to sought a new law on the prevention of interference with the freedom of marital alliances, right? If the children marries something which the parents are not accepting, they are killing them, or they are interfering with their marital status, right? That has to be prevented. That was given by the 242nd Law Commission, okay? And in the Hyderabad, there was a helpline that was established called Bharosa, right? If at all you have any problems with the marital alliances, you can call that helpline number and they will be helping you, right? Citizen poll throws up 3 contenders for National Butterfly Tag. So we have the national animal, we have the national bird, we have the national flower. The same way, we want to have the national butterfly. Why the butterflies are very important? Because they are really good pollinators, right? They are really good pollinators. They are ecologically more important, the pollinators. So to protect them, so we are naming them as a national butterfly, right? So there are 3 contenders: Indian Jezebel, the Krishna peacock, and orange oak leaf. So these are the 3 butterflies which are contending, and the 3 will be sent to the central government and 1 will be selected as a national butterfly, right? National relations, 2+2 dialogue, right? 2+2 dialogue. So the 2+2 dialogue is the dialogue between India and the America, where the defense minister and defense secretary of India, defense and also the foreign minister of India and the defense and the foreign minister of America will be sitting and will have a dialogue, and they will form agreements on what the cooperation can be established between the 2 states. This is what we call 2+2 dialogue, right? So what is the agenda for 2+2 dialogue that is being expected, right? The agenda for 2+2 dialogue is expected to include defense. So what are the defense agreements, the defense cooperation where the 2 states can establish, and economic cooperation and cooperation at multilateral forums. There are many multilateral forums where India and America are a part of. So in those particular platforms also we can have it. And a senior State Department official told the reporters. This is about the 2+2 dialogue, which is important. Next one, DRDO tests anti-radiation missile. Right, DRDO tests anti-radiation missile. This is the first indigenously developed anti-radiation missile, which is named Rudra, right? Rudra M1. So which is very important. It is developed by DRDO, right? Defense Research and Development Organization. The anti-radiation missile can locate and target radiation emitting sources such as enemy radars, communication sites and other radio frequency emitting targets, and they can destroy it, right? So, and those radars and all, they cannot even detect the missile, incoming missile. So in that way we can, during the first strike, if at all we disable the communication system of the enemy nation, so we will have an additional edge. The children from the safe homes to their families. So the Supreme Court has actually asked the jurisdiction of National Commission for Protection and the Children's Rights whether they can issue the directions to the state government without considering the education or the safety or the health status of the children, right, during the pandemic. So without considering any of this, and also the financial status of the parents, whether they can take care of the children or not, without even considering any of this, so can this direct the states to repatriate the children? Next, China slams Quad, right? This is important. What is Quad? This is important for the prelims, right? What is Quad? The Quadrilateral Security Dialogue, also known as Quad, is an informal strategic forum. So we have the formal strategic forums and also informal strategic forums, right? So it is an informal strategic program, strategic forum with 4 countries where United States, Japan, Australia, India are a part of. And recently the America has directly criticized China for its expansionist policy, and China has problems with all the neighboring nations across the world, right? So it has directly criticized it. So for prelims, the Quad is very important. The next one, they expect China-style development for Sri Lanka. This is very important for the international relations, because whatever the diplomatic relationships India has with the Sri Lanka are time tested. Because of the increasing Chinese influence in the Sri Lanka and increasing investments in the Sri Lanka in the Hambantota port and the development and other developmental projects, and also increasing its activity in the Indian Ocean region and docking a nuclear submarine in the Indian Ocean region at the Hambantota port is all a security threat to the India, right? So the Chinese trying to circumvent or close the maritime boundary with the Belt and Road Initiative, the China's Belt and Road Initiative, and because of this, we have to strategically plan how to combat the China's dominance in the Indian Ocean region. So recently we have seen the Rajapaksa saying that the Chinese style of development has to be there, and more amount of money is being infused into the Sri Lanka as investments. And when asked about the debt trap, and he said that there is no such kind of thing, but because the billions of money is being infused into the Sri Lanka, if they could not pay, the Hambantota port can be changed as the military establishment of China, which is a direct security threat to India in the Indian Ocean region, right? So that is important for the international relations. And Kyrgyzstan, what is happening in the Kyrgyzstan? There was a conflict, there were a series of protests that were happening in the Kyrgyzstan since the time of election. And the election rules which were drafted, which made only 4 political parties eligible to enter into the parliament. When the political parties were about 12. So because of this, the protests actually started, and even though the elections were nullified, still the protest is continuing over there, right? And we have to read about the strategic importance of this particular territory, because it is a landlocked region which has the longest boundary with the China, and even the Russia is trying to ascertain the dominance in that particular region to combat the China. And in the Afghan war, this particular territory played a very vital role to start a war against the Afghanistan, right? To fight against the Taliban. So the strategic importance of this particular region is very important when it comes to the international relations. Yeah. This is for today, and tomorrow we will meet with tomorrow's current affairs. See you. Bye. For more updates, please click on the bell icon and you will be subscribed to our channel. Thank you.